The next one, um, the next one in Unit 6, it's about a shop. It's about shopping. In shopping, you have comparison of adjectives. I believe that there are two types of comparison of adjectives that you need to understand. When it comes to comparing two people or two things, you have to use comparative, right? Comparative is like when you want to compare only two things. Like for example, you just want to compare this pen. That is when you use comparative. So the format is like you just have to put this one is shorter than. I believe that's the pattern that we all understood already before, like the adjective and then plus er then. Okay, or we use the other one, superlative. You have to know superlative adjectives are used to show the highest or the best or the lowest or the worst degree of some things or someone's, like, but you have to know that you actually can use this when you want to compare things which are more than two. So minimum 3, of course, and the limit is the top limit is infinite, like you don't know, and like it can be thousands, it can be millions, even until how many numbers that you want, you can do it, but minimum it should be 3. So that's when you can use superlative adjectives. Okay, so with that being said, let's continue with the formula. I believe the formula should be easy for you to understand, like when it comes to the idea of how to make comparison adjectives and how to make superlative adjectives. You have to pay attention to some guidelines. The guideline is actually very simple. So let's start. You have this. You have to use er to make comparative, or est to make the superlative, right? Like for example, you have the word black, it becomes blacker, and it will be blackest if it's superlative. Blacker is for comparative and superlative is blackest. Or you have the word clever, it becomes clever and it becomes cleverest, right? Okay, let's talk about the second guideline first for now. When there is a silent E at the end of the positive form, you have to remove that E and you have to add ER and EST. For example, you have the word ending with E, silent E, right? This is nice, late, hate. Nice, you don't pronounce the E, right? So nice, you don't say nicer. So that's the idea of what does it mean by by the idea of silent E. So you have to know when you have that silent E, you have to directly just add er and es, nicer and nicest, right? So that's what you can do. And when the adjective ends with a y, you have to convert the y into I before adding er and est. That's another rule that you have to know. So pretty, it ends with a y, right? So you have to use that one by converting the y into I. So it becomes prettier and prettiest. You have to also make sure that if the adjective is a small one with a little stress on the vowel, you have to double the last consonant. So as you can see, hot, it becomes hotter and hottest, but double T. Wet, also double T, it becomes wetter and wettest. Thin, it becomes double, thinner and thinnest. Okay, for some, Only for some sounds that have a little stress on the vowel, you have to double the last consonants. Okay, so that's the idea. And the last guideline for you is to understand that when you have other words with 2 or more syllables, syllables is like how you pronounce the word and how many syllables, so like you have to count. For other double syllable words that do not end with a y, er, o, w, le, and for adjectives with more than 2 syllables, you have to use more and most to the form of comparative and superlative. So as you can see, the word difficult, difficult, there are 3 syllables, right? So it means it's more than 2 syllables. You have to use more. Okay, more difficult in comparative and most difficult in superlative. Okay, careful. Careful is actually two syllables, careful, right? But you need to see and use more careful and also most careful. Handsome also, it's actually 2 syllables, but this one 2 syllables that you need to use more, and then most for what you have to actually see it here. Okay, so I think these types of guidelines will help you to understand, but please pay attention to the irregular adjectives. You have irregular adjectives as in good, in comparative you have better, in superlative you have best, bad you have worse and worst, and then little you have less and least, and then much you have more and most. So I think that should be the case for you to understand the concept on how to make their comparatives and superlatives.